Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday for another topic discussion for nature mysticism. Today, we're going to talk about despachos, which is one of my favorite things. It's a very artistic element of the tradition.
Each one's so different, and there's really not well, there are, like, maybe a handful that I know of that have to be kind of set in rules, but most of them, you put what your heart feels, the situation, which makes it so fun.
Yeah, and to tell a story, like this whole tradition, our teacher is Don Zane Curfman, author Inka Mountain Magic, and he was telling a story once that I don't think it was him. I think it was somebody else that was working with one of the Pacos, and they did they watched the despacha be made, and then they said, "Now do it like I did." And the person's doing it all perfect and trying to be precise, and the Paco knocks everything off and says, "No, do it how I do it." And this repeats a couple times until the person got it that, wow, no, I have to do it from the heart. They don't want me to duplicate what they're doing, they want to duplicate what they're being, which is doing it from the heart and really making it your own, and reverencing each little element that you put into despacho. And despacho just means payment. It means payment, and they're done for all kinds of different things, and they can be really, really long and involved, or very, very
Mhm.
simple, short, and sweet. That they have them for all different things.
And we've made in class some really big ones, like newspaper print paper that comes on the roll that we then all were trying to like fold up, to little bitty ones, because technically on our mesas there's always a little one that's made that goes underneath the kintu. So yeah, I mean they vary in size, what the ingredients are, what the purpose of them is, though I think my favorite that we did, and it was a separate class outside of the apprenticeship, we did like a death rites class. And so we built like a death rites despacho. And that one was really, really beautiful in how you conduct that one. And if Zane is logged in and watching, if he wants to comment on that one, please feel free. And also, friends, as you're watching and listening, if you have questions, feel free to ask. Let's see. And now Zane, Hank, you actually have a death rites ceremony this evening.
Well, death rites. It's a little bit what we're doing is me and Judy are going to blend together a couple different traditions, and we're going to do a farewell despacho. But usually, when you do a farewell despacho, it's for like the person who's passed, and you're doing everybody's offering memories for like a single person. Or in the death rites one, maybe you were doing it for each person as it was their turn on the table or whatnot. Tonight,
Mhm.
what we're doing is everybody can come together. We're asking people to bring picture frames, and we're going to build like a little like ancestor altar, if you will. And each person, for the person that they are processing grief for or looking to have some healing around, they're going to have flower petals, and they can offer a memory. And each one of those flower petals is going to build a very artistic despacho that we're going to use to give a blessing for everyone. And the idea is that this despacho is helping people to process their grief, to elevate the ancestors, and to help you reestablish a higher level of connection with your departed loved ones. And that's tonight at Goddess Elite. And it's just a love donation. So there's no reason not to come if you feel called. Just show up, bring a picture frame if you have one. But you just need you, yourself, and your soul, and the willingness to hold a pedal and put your vibration into it for what you're desiring to get for healing for yourself or your ancestor.
Now, if they've got a picture and it's not in a frame, they can still come.
They can still come. We'll figure out. I think we got some plastic display things. I'll be able to put some up, or if we need to, we'll just lay them on the table. And we're going to do it very ceremonially, and there'll be a little bit of Latin chanting specifically for the dead, and there'll be sound components, which is why Melissa's probably not going to come to this because she knows I'm going to make some noise. And there's going to be the despacha part. So it's really a blending of a couple different traditions, all catering to the elevation of the ancestors, our own healing, and really that grief that's so heavy for us. Like we talk in this tradition, like hucha, your heaviness you give to the underworld, you give to the nature spirits. That heaviness is light. That heaviness is a symbol of the love that you have for your departed loved ones. And so we're going to offer that grief as part of the payment, as part of that despacho, to help transmute it into a just a different octave of love, where you might then have a better chance to connecting with them in a different way, because relationships never end, they just change form. And all those loved ones on the other side, they're there. It's just sometimes that grief holds us so down that, some people are always waiting for that dream after a loved one passes, or waiting for that sign. And sometimes that heaviness can kind of create a fog around that. But once you start to let that go and look at it as a gift and a symbol of your love, you can help to elevate it and start to reestablish those connections. And then you have a whole different relationship with those loved ones, which can be really rewarding.
So people who would attend tonight, what you're saying, what I'm hearing, it's kind of like helping heal the grief and work through that on top of honoring the
Yeah.
ancestors.
Yeah,
So
Spirit inspired me a three-part process, and part of it is it's all healing and elevating and reconnecting. Those are the three parts for tonight.
and that's by donation tonight. So there's no set price. Give what you can.
Yeah.
And Hank, you are doing that at Goddess Elite.
It is Goddess Elite. I already have a table set up and some chairs and things, and I got some noisemakers in the car, which I have not set up yet.
You keep those in the car until about 6:30.
Yeah, well, that is the official setup time. But that's one thing. If you are local and you would like a session today, I normally don't have this much stuff with me. So if you wanted a little mini sound session, you could come in addition to doing readings, and you usually have like a set of tuning forks in one bowl. I have a lot more noisemakers. So if you wanted a little mini sound session today, you can stop in. I'll be here from noon until the event starts. But I probably will cut myself off for sessions starting at 6:30 just to center and finish setting up for the event.
And be
But
ready.
yeah.
You
What
know,
are your other
maybe
favorite? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say, and maybe, we just jumped right in talking about despachos, but maybe Hank, because you've built a few more than I have. What is a despacho? What does it mean? What is it?
It just means payment, and there's a lot of different ways. We do them in this tradition. The two really big ones would be for, well, there's three big ones, I think, maybe more, but there's like Pachamama Roimi, which is Mother Earth's birthday. That is between August 1st and 4th, and you build a huge despacho as thank you to the goddess, Mother Earth, and just all the all the thanks that you have for all the things that are showing up in your life and blessings and things, and you build this big despacho. We have one on the winter solstice in Inti Roimi, which is like the return of the sun. So you do that on the winter solstice in Peru. So it would be our summer solstice if you were doing
Mhm.
it at the same time as they were doing it. And that is all about returning, welcoming the sun, that the days are getting longer and all that kind of thing. And then we have other ones like the Inka Karpay Despacho, which is you honor like everything. And that's the one that takes like hours, not maybe. And it really depends on the group, because each person with each item you're putting in that despacho, it's going around the circle, and each person is offering their reverence and their gratitude, and they're connecting. And depending on the group, like you could be in a despacho making ceremony for a couple hours, and
Mhm.
you're holding that same level of sacredness the entire time. And then there's real simple ones like Melissa said at the very beginning of building your mesa. There's a real simple one with just three leaves rather, that make one kintu: a kernel of corn, a flower petal, a little bit of oil, a little incense, a little bit of things like oats or something, and you're just consecrating a sacred space with that offering. And that offering is helping to absorb, when you're doing healings, all the hucha of your client or you or whatever's coming up.
Oh,
And you then eventually will, if you have your mace up all the time, like some people I know, you should still probably change that out every month. But when you take apart your mesa, that's when you would burn it or bury it, or whatever the case is. And that's the other thing with despachos. There's different ways after you've done the despacho and built it. You can offer a blessing for those in attendance, which is one thing I'm planning to do tonight after I fold it up, and then I'll end up burning the despacho or burying it. I haven't decided yet. And or you would open it up and disperse it. You could sink it in water. Um, there's different ways to depending on the despacho, how you want to disperse the elements that you use to create it.
now, other than bringing pictures of their loved ones, and this doesn't necessarily have to be bloodline family. So if you've got significant like friends,
You
coworkers that you were close to, bring them. Um, but other than that, should they bring anything else for the despacho?
I will have everything else that's required. It really, this is a lot of flower. I'll still do a little cross and a shell and things, which are common things in despachos. But other than that, or just do flower petals. What I would also say is I'm going to have a big thing of newsprint. If you want to write something, I'll have a Sharpie. People can write something, and if they want it to be like a message to a loved one for when it gets. Now I know I'm going to burn it if I do that. That we'll burn that because we're carrying that when the despacho burns, it's carrying those messages and the elevation to the spirits or whatnot. Yeah, just bring you yourself and your soul. There'll be an altar space if you want to put something on the altar besides a picture frame. You could do that, but it's not required. But there's nothing else needed for the actual despacho itself.
Mm.
If you
So,
have your own flower petals, you could bring your own flower petals. Like I know one person reached out and they have their own flower petals and they wanted to know if they should bring that. And my initial response was, we'll have all the flower petals, but if you've been working with a particular flower for loved ones, like you have a bouquet that you had at the cemetery and you want to go and grab one of those flowers and bring that to offer the flower petals, I think that would be even more meaningful. So you can build more potency and meaning into it if you're inspired to.
mhm. Yeah, feel free to ask questions. Going a little too easy today.
Yeah,
Being
I see
easy.
a lot of people watching. They're just that there's not questions. It's a pretty simple topic. But the main thing with the despacho, no matter what you're doing, it's to restore Aini. And Aini means divine reciprocity. So when you're out, and that's what grief is, like you have a loved one that's left, and all of a sudden that loss, it's creating a imbalance in a way because
Mhm.
you've lost your connection and you have to find that reconnection of how that relationship is going to look now. And the grief despacho, the farewell despacho, is all about helping to restore that Aini and that relationship again.
Bringing you back into balance, riding that wave. That's kind of harkening back to that grief can create that hoocha that pulls you down. Um, and these help kind of lift that back up, help you process that. This particular one tonight, there are other types of despachos, like as Hank said, they are payments. So in some of the initiation work that we do in the apprenticeship, there are payments that are made um, as thank yous and honoring the exchange with Apus and nature spirits of taking in their blessing and their teachings and their wisdom. So in the apprenticeship, you'll learn to make certain ones. Some you may use often for yourself if you feel the need. Others are maybe more once in a while that you might do for yourself, or if you decide at some point with Zane's blessing to start teaching and you are now teaching somebody else, then you will make that to teach them. But so some of them are more once in a while. Others, you can do more often. Because let me tell you, I was making quite a few despachos for the land spirits around my house when I was trying to get it sold. And like, you are happy little spirits. I'm happy. You're happy. Everybody's happy. Um, so they're quite fun to do at times and to make, and it's a different way besides just sitting and meditating and going, oh, thank you. You can actually do a physical representation of that honor, that thanks, that love that you are giving. So if you're somebody that's a hands-on type of person and demonstrating your spiritual beliefs, then despachos would probably work well for you. So when you talk of disposing of them, which that word, I always feel like dispose is trash, right? And I'm like, a better word when you're done and how you're gifting it.
You're honoring the remnants.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Um, you can bury them, you can give them to water, you can burn them, and what was the final?
You open it up and would disperse it. So I've done that occasionally. Like I'll open up the dispatch and all the Palo Santo dust and the oats and whatever, and I just kind of blow it and I blow it over like a ravine or something like that is the final way. And sometimes you would just leave it in nature too. Like the consecration process that we do it on a piece of paper because we're building our mesa inside. But say you were doing this outside, you would build that offering right on the spot. And then you would just leave it. You wouldn't have to do anything with it. It's already in nature, and you would just take your things and then move on. So there's a lot of different ways. And what was the other thing? uh I just forgot it. Oh, when you mentioned the land spirits, when I do house clearings and things, that is a common thing that I'll do, if especially if I can get the entire family involved. If it's something out of balance with the land for whatever reason, getting everybody involved in building a despacho to honor the land And while they're building it, like thinking of all the fun memories and all the different things that they're thankful for the house and the land, and having them build that despacho, then doing the house clearing, and then using the despacho, offering the family a blessing, then we bury it on the land is something, well, 90% of the time I bury it. There's been a couple times I've done something else, but that is a beautiful thing you could do for yourself and your family and just honor the land. How much do we take for granted the place that we live? And in this tradition, we have, it's called the um, Pachamamita, the spirit of the land. That's, you can use that for any place. The spirit of the land that you're at. You're, how often do we take it for granted? And that would put us out of ini with that spirit. And so the despacho would help bring us balance. Combined with the
It's
house
a good
clean, we
point.
got a lot of magic going on.
Because how many times, right, do we're at work, we're out in public, and you just can't wait to get home, and you're feeling tired, uncomfortable, aggravated, and then you come home and you like release that, and you're releasing that down into the house, the land, the around you. And while yes, you're giving some of that negative away, like in a way it's a subconscious, like I feel safe here, I can't wait to go home and feel safe here, and to do the little despachos for the house, for the land, for the like, hey, thank you for helping me feel safe and for allowing me to come home to you, and release that, get away from all of the uncomfortable things. So it's kind of like that little nod of like, I appreciate and honor that you allow me to do this, because I'm a human and we muck things up for ourselves and other people, and we're bringing that muckiness to you, and you kind of like shield us and go, there, it's okay. So building those little house despachos, and now as I say that, I'm like, yes, that made sense for the house. I'm in my apartment that I love because it's so close to the house, but right, there's not as much ease to like go out in the front yard and like, I'm gonna
Yeah,
burn a
you may have to go
despacho.
up to the tree lawn or something,
Yeah,
But yeah,
well,
if you're
there's
motivated, you can do it. Or if you had to,
I
you just do it in your home and then
mhm,
you go disperse it somewhere or burn it. And like you work with what you have. So if you can't go
right,
outside, then
yeah.
you adapt. And that's what this tradition is all about,
Mhm,
adapting to the environment around you, what you actually have to work with. And this is one of the classes Zane does teach as a standalone class. So if you guys have
mhm.
interest in a despacho class that would show a couple different types of despachos, building them together and how to do it, that is something that we could have Zane come up and teach if there's interest in that. I know he's taught that once before. And I
Yes,
think there's just so many.
for
One of
sure.
the other ones, like for some deep work, there's soul retrieval despachos. When there's like
Mhm.
a really big imbalance or trauma from a soul loss, there's a soul retrieval despacho you can do. There's ones for the four guardians, like the Harakuna. There's like four main nature spirits that are guardians, and you do a despacho with four shells and do little offerings to each one of the nature spirits. And whichever one you're petitioning a little bit more, you give them just a little bit more on their little plate. Like the shells are the plates they eat off of. And so if you're looking for physical healing or mental direction or spiritual fulfillment or whatever the case is, you would focus a little bit more on that. So there's just so many. And if you don't have a despacho for something, you create it. Because once you know the despachos, you could make it for pretty much anything that you're doing
Mhm.
as a physical representation of your intention and to build a relationship around the nature spirits that you're working with around a particular purpose.
So I'm pretty sure this is Judy, because I see Judy
Well,
at
she
the
signed it, Beauty, at the end.
uh, the whole process of building and then giving away the despacho is so meaningful, because it's hard to feel like you're doing anything when we're working in the spiritual energetic capacity. And the despacho gives you something tangible to pin your intentions to. Right. And so that kind of goes with some of the other shaman work. So we've talked about like the third and the fourth level, I believe. Have we?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Well,
The fourth.
maybe we haven't. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe we haven't. No, maybe not on here. We haven't. Um, the fourth level is very like you're doing the communication, you're getting your information. It's not as much of hands on, whereas the third level, and don't take this as one's higher or better than the other. It's just different ways of doing things. The third level is the very hands-on. It's kind of like the showmanship one. There's a lot more of spraying of liquids and rattling of things and doing hands-on. So some of us have learned or chose to learn that path as well. So you have an idea of what to do that coincides with the fourth. So, you have your client coming in and they're requesting help and healing with something. And as they're telling you how and why, normally in the fourth level, you're processing, you're listening, you're, eating hoocha, you're shifting things. And then when that person's like, and then that's what's going on. And then you go, oh, okay, well, we've realigned that for you. They're going to be like, you did nothing. You sat there, you listened to my story, you did nothing. So that third level is, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I need you to sit here, hold this, do this. I'm going to sprinkle, and you're still doing work. It's just something they can see. So in a way, the despacho is kind of like that. There is something to see. And just as people are different types of learners, there's different types of spiritual work, and some feel better for others. So having something that can be hands-on, that you can then take that feeling and give a physical representation for, to help you express that feeling out, and to help make that connection. So despachos, they're actually really fun to do. And if you're artistic and you're in the spiritual side, like, this may call to you even more, because you can design them and you can add them or add to them. You can take one of the ones that you might learn in the apprenticeship and go, here's the basic foundation that you would do for this rhymey. And then you're like, you know what? But I feel that this one would also benefit by having this added into it. You can do that. Hello, friends coming in. We are talking about despachos and how they relate in with the Peruvian mysticism. We've covered a few. So there's the ones in the apprenticeship. We've talked about making some to honor your house spirits, your land. It's funny, and I bet there are some people who do tons of gardening who kind of accidentally make little despachos without even realizing it, when they're out there like trying to better their garden, and they're getting all these little things and they're putting it in. And the fact that they're putting it in with love and intention for that garden to grow and for that land to be healthier, to support, those in a way are kind of like little mini little payments, little thank yous, little I love yous that are being given to the ground at that time for that purpose. But if you want to say, I want to do my whole 5-acre property and not just this little patch, that's where you can then, kind of build a bigger one, and then, decide how you want to finish it, by burying it like in the middle of the property, or if you're going to have a bonfire and you're like, we're going to give it off and let the smoke disperse it. Yeah, what you got, Hank?
Well, one thing that you mentioned is like how some people need to see something, and people put a lot of value to their story. They've been making their story for how many years of their life, and to just walk into a healing and get one session from one person, people value the story so much that what if you really went for gusto, and you're doing all these things, it helps the brain get out of the way, and there's all this stuff happening to counteract all these years of the person working on their problems. And I think that that's one of the things, is it helps the left brain get out of the way for the actual healing to occur, because it gives all this stuff for it to focus on, and you're making a payment for their story in a way, and that can help just get a lot more out of the healing process. And then there's other people that are able to just do it with a handshake, and all the healing happens. And to your point, there's just all kinds of different people, and that's the importance as a healer, when people are sitting down with you, not necessarily just jumping in. Zinc, I forgot what it's called. It translates to kind of to confession. I think it's Sitan. No, it's not. I forget now. But it means confession. It's like that intake at the beginning of the session, to kind of ask questions and get plot points and understand really what's going on. And then from there, you can look to do like an illumination technique, or a huchai pichai rumi, which is heavy sweeping stones, and using those kinds of stones, or doing some other work depending on what they say. Sitwa, I believe it is, now that I got it. Sitwa. And then cultivating the whole session for whatever they're coming in for, which may include, like, if it's a big trauma or something that they're working on, a big theme in their life, a despacho might be just a ticket, or giving them the homework to do it. Like, here's I've done that. I've given them a little rep. This is what you need to go and do before you see me again.
Mm-hmm.
And put it on them. It's like you need to be invested in your healing work, because some people come in, they get the healing, and then they're not actually working outside of the healing. And because it's about personal empowerment, that they can do these things and reclaim their own healing process, if you will, and taking control of their life. And a despacho can help do that, or a lot of other things.
Well, and that could also help maybe the people who, they come in for a healing, but they're like, I don't know what to do after that. Like, I've talked about it, I kind of raised some of that, but how do I keep making a change so it can set in and start making a change? And despachos might help that, because now you have something to put your hands on to do, or an action to help figure out, like, what's the difference going to be later. You're letting go of things, or you're giving the thanks of things, the gratitude. But I agree, there are some that just like to collect the healing work and be like, look what I did, I went in for all this healing, but I still want to go in and keep talking about the same thing over and over and over again.
So
So
what's your
putting that on them to be like, okay, what are you going to do about it? Are you tired of hearing your story yet? So that might help shift them to be like, oh, okay, yep, okay.
Well, the thing is, you need to empower them and get them to a place where they desire to actually do their work. Because otherwise, healing could just be symptom mitigation. I don't want to do my work. I just want to feel better. So bliss me out with some sound. But ask me to look at my childhood and actually look at that and dive into it and start to really sit with my insecurities or sit with my traumas, or, and step out of the victim mentality and really reclaim that. That's a lot of work. It's not fun all the time. It could be
Right,
easy, but you need to be willing to go at least look at it. And
right.
I
Well,
think for me as a healer, that's my number. Even if someone's coming in for symptoms, it's like, well, wouldn't it be nice if you wanted to actually dive in?
right. Well, and I think for some people, like, just that first acknowledgement that there is a problem, is sometimes just the start of that problem, or that process for the problem. Instead of like, everything is fine, I just feel like this, but it's fine. Like, but why? You wouldn't feel like that if there wasn't a problem.
Well, and problems, like some people, I have so I had a very animated childhood, so it's hard for me to relate to people who've had like no traumas. But like everybody has imprints. You could have been imprinted with self-worth issues from your parents arguing about how expensive it is to have a baby, and you'll never remember that argument, but the imprint may be there. And so you might think that there's nothing. There's something. There's imprints, and dive in, and you might not get the memory, but you can get the flavor of it and then learn how to navigate it, because it's those imprints that that cause us to be triggered. Because it might rattle up against something and all of a sudden you don't want to look at it. So what do? You create a distraction and you get triggered and you act like a jerk. I have a
Mhm.
lot of experience with this. I'm just saying, calling myself out. But if you start to look at those imprints and diving in, you learn to navigate them. And then instead of being triggered, one of the things we talk about in the program a lot is, instead of being impulsive and reacting from that tailbone nawi that connects us to the water, you elevate it to the heart and are responding with compassion, or
Mhm.
maybe here and elevating for vision, or different things, and starting just to octave up how you're responding, or moving from reaction to response. That's really the key, because response, you're actually putting conscious effort into it. A reaction, those are the things that you just did something, you've been the jerk or whatever, and you're looking back going, whoa, what did I just do?
Mhm.
You're looking at it after the fact because you were so triggered, you were acting unconsciously. And it's about bringing the unconscious conscious. And the only way you do that is diving in and recognizing, I might have imprints. I might have stubbed my toe and mommy wasn't there and I felt abandoned. Mommy was always there for me, but that imprint's there from that one time I stubbed my toe and she wasn't.
Mhm.
And then you have other things that resonate with that. That's the thing to look at. Look at the themes. Like, what's the real theme going on? And then digging down. When was the first time I ever experienced that? And you're looking for that original wound or original imprint, core wound, whatever you want to call it, and then learning to navigate it.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be there. It's part of what we are. So it's not like you make it go away like it never happened, but you learn to navigate it and then honor it. And then that becomes medicine,
Mhm.
figuratively speaking, for you to offer your fellow travelers. That becomes the pearl of wisdom that you can maybe help someone else along the path. That's one thing I love Zane talks about. Like, he doesn't look at himself as better or worse than any student or anything. He's just a brother on the path that's been down this way a little bit and can give you some tricks and tell you, maybe, give you some inspirations of how to navigate the path that you're on. but he doesn't look at it as a hierarchical thing. Like third and fourth level, it's not a hierarchy thing. They both have value, and they
Mhm.
work together. You know.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'll say is like having him as a teacher. Um, like I don't even think I've ever really heard him say like I as your teacher. He's just a source of knowledge in a way, and I shouldn't say he's just a source, but there is none of this feeling of like you can never go to him with a problem, or it's stupid to go ask a question about something that he just said because he's up here and you're down here, and why can't you understand what's coming out? Like he's so low key and so like, oh yeah, what's up? It's kind of like going to your friend and like dumping and being like, here's all the crap going on. Nothing that I seem to do is make like help. Like, what am I missing? What am I overlooking? What am I, just not perceiving? And he'll sit there and have that like good friend conversation and kind of dip into some of the teaching. He's like, well, remember when we kind of talked about this and doing this, and have you tried this? And is he also kind of like that friend teacher that will tell you about yourself that maybe you thought you didn't need or want? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to sugarcoat it for you just because. But by no means is it this teacher student and above you going to talk down to you and make you feel silly for even asking. So and that's one thing that really stood out in the apprenticeship. I can't really say if any people that we've ever had at the store were kind of like that, but he's the most comfortable. um that I've sat there and like, oh, okay. Like when the weekend is over, it's kind of like, oh, we're done. Well, crap. Now I got to wait a month. Um, where there's been a few other classes and everything, and nothing against those people, just the way it was taught, that I'm like, oh my God, like we still have an hour of this.
Yeah,
Like I
I've
can't
been in
wait.
classes like that where it's like whatever they're talking about is this is the way and no other. And those teachers scare me a little bit. And I take the best and leave the rest so I can still go and get value out of that. But it's like I don't know. I am cautious when I run into a teacher like that.
I probably listen to too much true crime, but when I see or hear about those teachers, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a podcast episode on something here at some point. Like I could see this escalating. Um, there's actually been a couple, well, at least one tradition that was kind of popular in the Cleveland area that I was like, I don't know if I like that. That seems culty. And then sure enough, what podcast that I listened to, there was an episode on that tradition. I'm like, oh, see, see, that episode came down real quick. So I'm sure some lawyers heard about that one. But right, unless it's the Mandalorian, then this is the way. And that one's okay. Except I'm not a big fan of like having to go dive down into water and go see the big scary thing in the water to be like cleansed and remandalorianized. But it is what it is. Um, we're going to throw in some Star Wars into this conversation, apparently. Make my son proud. Hey, Karen. Um, yeah, we were just talking about some despachos and teachings. And if you have questions about them, if you're coming in late and have some questions of what it is, what's going on, though, Hank this evening is doing a grief ceremony in which a grief despacho will be made for everybody. And it's for donation. So if you're local and you want to come honor some loved ones, come with a picture and do some work, help move some grief. Hey, Maka. Help process some grief. And sometimes, right, when we say process grief, it doesn't mean that you are somebody that years later, like you just can't leave your house because you're so grief stricken. If this was a passing of somebody who, yes, you're still functioning and yes, you miss them, but they're still like that really hard, like heart wrenching, gut wrenching, like, this could be something to help kind of move on. By no means does the loss of somebody ever really get easier because you're always going to miss and love them. But in a way, like that wound shouldn't still feel fresh as that very first day, if that makes sense. And I'm trying not to minimize it. It's hard to explain, but to help feel like more comfortable with it, if comfortable is even the right word.
You learn to navigate it. I like the word because the grief, even I lost someone in third grade, a classmate, and I still have moments when that comes up for me. And it used to be crippling and now it's not. And you learn to navigate it. And when you feel it, you kind of think of the person and you honor them and maybe offer them that grief because that is a form of love. Like it's basically I have love to show, but I can't show it. And so like when you have that grief, offer it. And that will help you navigate it. And that the whole process tonight is all designed around learning how to offer your grief as love, let it go, and then elevate
Mm.
and connect. So it's
You
a
know,
three-part process. And we're going to have some chanting too. Judy's going to be there doing some Gregorian chanting that are all specifically picked for this process as well. 5 little chants that are going to be woven in throughout the whole evening, and then a few sound elements as well to just because I'm a sound maker. Like I got to make some noise.
you're just the noisy kid on the block, man. That's why we
I,
keep you on the other side of that
I
wall.
even brought a gong, a little gong that I'm going to use. So yeah, it's going to be
Um,
great.
it's I'm trying to remember if this was a quote in a book or just an inspirational like poem or something, but there was a part of it where it said, grief is just love with nowhere to go.
Great.
So, feel free to come tonight if you're like, I need and feel like I really want to come take part in honoring some loved ones, be it past family members or, maybe that best friend from kindergarten who, passed for whatever reason. Um, this is a way to go. Now, we've talked about the whole like the easier loss, right? The loved one that there was no issue with. Now, bringing this up because I feel like this might be a question. If you have somebody that you lost and there's anger in this grief because maybe it was drug related, violent related, something that they did that wasn't just an illness, or is this despacho to help with that as well?
Absolutely, because like you said the quote, and I even hinted about it earlier. Grief is love, and when we offer that, the part of the process tonight, like the street part elevation or process that I spirit inspired, that first part is offering the grief to the dead person, and if it's somebody who died in one of those ways, that love, that grief is helping to elevate. So part of it's about elevating the ancestry, and I'll be doing some mysticism work around that as well as we go through that process. So you're not even all doing it on your own, you just have to offer it. I'll be doing energy work to help facilitate that, to be doing an elevation for those spirits who want to receive it. And uh, and then it's about connecting with the higher self, because there's like different levels of consciousness, right? And I found this in mediumship, that what level of consciousness are you connecting to? Because Grandpa Joe from astral level might not be happy with anybody his baby girl might end up marrying, but the elevated version of Grandpa Joe is. So that both informations could be correct. So you want to connect with the highest aspect of that person as possible. So they'll
Mhm.
be connecting to the upper and lower world in this tonight. So you're going to take them and you're going to elevate them. So you're bringing those two worlds a little closer together, where your relationship with them could be a more healed one. So it's not just a person who decided to end their life or take the drug overdose or anything like that. It's also the part of them that had the condor vision of what they were choosing, and energetic can offer solace as to why that choice was relevant or why that choice was made, because there's healing in it for everyone.
Mhm. So feel free to come this evening, Goddess Elite. Just bring a picture if you have it.
Yeah.
What if this was somebody that you don't have pictures for? Can they still
Then
come?
you just come anyway, and you're gonna. There's going to be part of the process will be these little flower petals, and you will be able to offer a memory of the loved one. And just that thing, you're thinking of them, you're connecting to them, you're making that CK line, that line of connection to them, to bring their essence there. With or without a picture, it's not necessary. And if you're really shy, or you think you'll be really emotional in offering an actual memory and the name of the loved one, you can also just hold the petal and just think of it. So you don't, if you're shy, you don't have to worry about it. We won't make you talk, but I think it would be very healing if you're able to offer the memory, and then you'll offer the pedal to the despacho, and we'll continue to build it as a group.
Now, might you be able to offer this virtually at some point for any of our friends who would want to take part, but they're in another state?
We could definitely, I would have to talk to the other person, but I think that it's doable for that. Like, I'm sure it can be adapted for virtual. We could do
Okay.
Zoom.
So if you
Yeah.
guys might be interested in something like that, just let us know in comments. Because
Yep.
right now, this one for tonight's set up for in person. Um, but if you feel like you might want to, and if you don't want to put it publicly in comments, send a whisper message. Hey, Divine. Divine said yes, she would love to have something virtually. Because I know for a fact Divine is a few states away. So, but if you don't want to put that out there publicly, you can send a message, email, chat, whisper, whatever platform you're on, because we're streaming on like 4 different platforms right now in like 8 different channels. So send it however you're at.
Yep.
7 o'clock tonight, Hank.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yep. And we're going to meet on the store side to give directions because once we're going to like walk over to the center side then after. But we wanted to give all the directions. So as we enter the space, we really wanted just to be sacred and ceremonial and
Mhm.
then just keeping it that
So
way. So we'll meet on the store side. So you can come early, engage in retail therapy if you like, and then we'll give instructions and then move over to where the actual ceremony is going to be.
this is a spur of a moment question I'm going to blindside you with, but knowing that there are a couple people who are on with us right now that are local that are maybe considering the apprenticeship, while you're setting up at 6:30, if they were able, would they be able to kind of come and watch you set up just to get an idea of what some ceremonial, maybe not necessarily specific to the tradition, but because you're going to use it in part of it?
Well, anybody interested on Thursdays, you can come in and pick my brain and just talk mysticism. So, like, that's an open invitation. So it's going to be more logistical setting up, like mats and pillows, and like I already have the table set up and the chairs actually from when I got in this morning. So, like, there's not going to be a huge ceremonial setup. It's just going to be us getting centered. But absolutely, come up early and you're welcome to help us hold space while we do that.
Okay.
Pick my
Um,
brain.
so if you're local and thinking of coming anyway, you can come up early and kind of see the setup, ask some questions, um, help set that sacred space and get it ready for yourself and other people. But again, Hank, he's in the store every Thursday locally. So you can come in, ask questions. I'm usually there, though I'm usually running around a little more hectically. Hank is usually more calm and centered, just
Usually.
taking care of clients. Um, uh, So, Chair says, is there a way to allow positive ghosts into your life but keep the door closed on negative ones like scents or crystals or particular candles? Or is that dangerous door to open?
Well, when you say the word ghosts, I assume we're talking earthbound spirits. Would I be correct? I don't know when you say ghosts. I would be weary of considering like an earthbound spirit is not any more or better off or higher consciousness than us. And
Mhm.
if you're dealing with a ghost like that, I would look to help them cross over. And if it's somebody that you're personally connected with, then you could do an elevation process, and there's a way that you could work with them after elevating their consciousness, and they could be more of a guide. But that's not a quick process necessarily. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would be wary of ghosts in general because they're not any better off than Uncle Joe, who hated everyone, for example.
Yeah, right. And just touching back to knowledge with Marianne, even if the ghost was like your sweet old grandma who just was the sweetest thing ever, but she just hasn't crossed over for whatever reason, um, she may not give you issues in the way of like purposefully hiding things, moving things, but her being around is a drain on the energy. So it's going to make you tired, make you sick, physically, because just constantly pulling that energy. So you would want grandma to go ahead and cross over.
And now,
Um,
once grandma's crossed over, a different version of grandma with a lot more awareness and things
Mhm.
absolutely could still be part of your life.
Yeah. So is there a way to do that other than like easily like the smudging, white sage, sweetgrass. Chair, I know you're in a different country, so I don't know how easy those are for you to get, or if your local land and lore has a different type of herb that works just as well. To do that, just to help keep all those earthbounds out. But the good thing about that is it will not keep those that have crossed over away. So grandma has crossed over. She can still come and visit, give you guidance, be a positive, influence for you all day long, because that's not going to affect her at all. And now it's like a note to self, like what kind of herbs grow over, overseas, over the big pond, that work just as well for that. But sweetgrass, I think sweetgrass grows pretty widely. Note to self. Where's our gardeners?
Well, worst case scenario, Melissa does ship internationally, I believe.
Yeah, I can put things in a box and ship it, believe it or not. And if you're somebody who's close to Wisconsin, I will be there Saturday. So if we need to do a drop off, meet me in Franklin. So if you're somebody out that way and you need something, just let me know. I'll throw it in the Durango before I leave tomorrow morning. Half stuff will travel. So yeah, if we have any last questions or comments, I know it's a little after 11, and Hank, you need to get ready. I've got a few things to do before I head into the store to start packing for my trip.
And I forgot stuff, so at some point today I'm going to have to run to my office and or home and get stuff that I forgot. I always forget something. I forgot my computer today. That's why I'm this way, because I'm on my phone. So
yeah, and it's funny because I'm like, I'm running late today with things and allergies and stuff. And I'm like, hey, just start without me. It's all good. He's like, I can't because I'm on my phone and I won't be able to see comments. And I'm like, okay, give me like 3 minutes. I'll be there.
I could see comments, but I would be touching the phone. It's going to be moving. Like I have to click.
You see Hank's finger coming at your face.
Yeah, here we go.
But yeah, any last questions? Otherwise, we'll get ready for the day and be there in person if you're local. But again, if you guys ever have questions, feel free to send it like in chats or whispers or emails.
We do have links for next year's program. There's like a 12-month payment option, down payment, a payment option, pay-as-you-go payment option. So if you really wanted to get started and sign up for that and start the energy, because I believe once you sign up for something, the energy starts. I've had that experience once I've signed up for a class and all of a sudden I'm like, what's happening? I'm like, oh, I already started the class. So that is available. We can send you the link. I don't have it ready to post, but if you're interested in that, shoot us a message. We can send you the link with the sign up options and you can start thinking about that, especially if you're needing like the 12-month option. You would start now. By the time the program's done, you'd be all paid up, but it makes it a little bit more manageable. So that's all available for you too.
And the price and the payment includes everything. You're not going to hear from us like, oh, by the way, now you need to pay an additional. Like it's all.
If you want Zane's book, that is an additional fee, but like that's optional. You don't have to have his book.
Yeah, that's not required reading. This isn't a college class where you have to go buy textbooks that you never use.
But I do recommend it because it does have a nice, convenient Quechua dictionary, though the glossary rather. Though I think he's going to expand on it a lot when he finally gets around to the remake, which might be years down the road. So until then, it's a good book with a glossary and things.
We're part of at fault there because we keep him teaching, so we kind of slow down the second book.
For next week, since we talked about the levels, but we realized we didn't talk about it, we may talk about the Alta Messiah path and the Pampa Messiah path, and just talk about the two different levels of the priesthood that are the main ones in this tradition. So we have our topic for next week. We'll go ahead and go.
Happens live. You saw it happen here.
Now you know what you can ask us about, or if you have questions in the meantime, comment on them, because even if we're talking about that, we can still circle back and answer questions that came up. And I hope you can make it tonight for the Despacho at 7 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. And hopefully you can join us next week. Thursday is at 10 a.m. ish. And I say ish because I'm the one late this morning. But we're in that 10 to 11 hour. So, but ideally we do shoot for 10.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
See you later. Bye.
Bye, guys.